Hello, my name is Michael, and on behalf of Newgen Software Technologies Canada, I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch our demonstration. Today, we will be walking through an consumer auto loan. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, imagine you have a customer that has come to your website and wants to apply for a loan. We're going to walk through what that customer experience would be like applying for an auto loan online. Let me just go ahead and select auto loan here. Then once I do that, you can see I have a few options or a few questions I can answer. First, what would I like to buy? Whether I'm referring to a car, RV, heavy truck, if I'm looking for a fixed or variable rate. Now, as I'm going through this, do keep in mind that all the screens that you see are completely configurable. The order of the questions, the order of the screens, the fields that we're making mandatory, all of that is able to be configured for your financial institution. As we're moving forward, we do require that the customer uploads an ID, and we'll use that ID to pre-fill their information. This makes it really easy for them so they don't have to manually key in all of the data, as well as helps reduce any chances of typos as they're filling in the information. For any existing customers, we would also be able to leverage integration with systems like online banking, where they could fill in their credentials and automatically all of the data will be filled into the application. So it just makes it easy for them to go ahead and apply. Now that I've uploaded my driver's license, you can see that my information is filled in, but I do have a few fields that are still required that are not on the driver's license yet. Let me go ahead and fill these in.
Music
Address here.
Reimagined.
My zip and postal code. What do I own? Do I rent? What is my current time at the address? So a few questions here about the applicant themselves. What is their residency scenario? A few contact details. Then we'll also start to capture some of the employment details here as well. So how long have they been employed with their current employer? Years, months. Go ahead and correct my organization. And then we'll go ahead and fill in the title. We're not requiring an employer address, but certainly we can do that if you would prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and move forward, and we do start to ask about the income details as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start to fill in some information here. Any comments can be added if required, but otherwise we can skip that. Now here I do have the option to add a co-borrower. I'm just going to go ahead and say no in the interest of time, and we can just move forward here. I'm going to indicate that I am looking for a $25,000 car loan, and I'm going to request a 48-month term. Automatically, based upon the information I've entered, we're going to go ahead and display what is going to be the interest rate. So we can use different rules set up into the system to automatically display that for your borrowers here. Now for our auto loan, we're going to go ahead and select what type of collateral I want to use. I'm going to just go ahead and say it's going to be the vehicle that we are applying for. And so let me go ahead and start to capture some information here. So is this a used vehicle, new vehicle? Who is the dealership here? Now we also do have integration mechanisms here that allow us to connect with different auto valuation systems. So once I go ahead and enter in my zip code, we can do a search here on the vehicle if I happen to know this vehicle. So whether it be Black Book or any other sources, an ADA, for example, we can pull in the information. We can also ask a few questions about the vehicle itself. So if they don't specifically know the VIN number, we can ask about the make, model, year, different features like that, and we'll be able to do a search as well. Let me go ahead and continue forward. Now before we finish up, this just gives me a chance to review my information and make sure that everything is correct. We'll just assume that everything is okay, and I'll just move forward. Now at this point, we can present any consent disclosures that would be required here. We can also present any documents that would be there. Now for the demonstration, we've taken the approach that we're displaying the language here. But a lot of times we also see that our clients prefer to list the different disclosures and consents as links, and then you can actually require that the borrower clicks on those links. before they can proceed. Here, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I have read and agree to all. I can go ahead and select what is my preferred branch. And then once we move forward here, you can see that I've been able to successfully submit my application for the auto loan. Now that we've walked through the borrower experience, let's transition here and move into what the financial institution experience would be. So once that application is submitted, we are able to ingest that into the system. And we do have a full-fledged back office system for the financial institution users here. Once I log in, what we're seeing here is what we refer to as our personalized user workspace. So this just gives me a quick snapshot of the information that would be important to me. And we're able to create different views on this landing page, depending on the person that's logging into the system, what their job profile is, what they may be performing on their day-to-day activities, just to make sure that they have the most relevant information for them. You can also even use these different dashboards to navigate in the system. So for example, if I wanted to click on this filter here to see, hey, what are any of the loans that have not been assigned so far? And so I can assign those, or just kind of see, what are the different statuses, what are the loan amounts, the types of loans. Any of those different dashboards can be created. Now over on the left side are all the queues in the system. So this is a queue-based workflow, and the system will intelligently determine which queue the application needs to be routed to. Now we do have the capability for automated underwriting and decisioning, and in those cases the system can identify that this would not have to go through the manual underwriting step. It'll just be able to skip through to approval or documentation, depending on how you want that workflow to work. Now we can also initiate a brand new application here as well. So if I'm sitting in a branch face-to-face with a customer or a call center accepting an application, I can initiate that application from scratch as well. Let's just go ahead and continue our journey with the application that we've submitted. So this was routed to the underwriting queue, and I'll be able to pick that up here just momentarily. So here we do have this the application that we submitted for Mr. William O'Brien. Let me just go ahead and maximize this, and let me go to full screen here. Now, just to give you a little bit of information about the layout of our screen, at the top of our interface, we do have just this quick banner of information that gives me the basic details about this application. So I'm able to see who is the borrower, what is the application number, application date, who is this application assigned to, or any other information that you would like to have displayed up there. Down below, what we've done is taken all the different sections or categories of information and divided them into tabs. And so this works really well from a user perspective, where I can just go through in this logical left to right format, addressing all of the tabs, all the data points, documents that might be required before I finally come to my last tab, which is decision, which will go ahead and move this forward into the workflow depending on what I select there. Over on the right side, we have a document viewer pane. Now, this is just an optional part of the interface. You can certainly have this portion of the interface on the left take up your entire screen. So I can show you that here. This just document pane allows me to just kind of give a preview of the documents that I've captured as part of the application. Let's go ahead and start walking through this. So we do have the personal information first. We already have Mr. O'Brien's information. Now, any of these sections that we'll be seeing here, I can also drill down into them. If I want to click on them, I can see additional information. We're just getting a quick snapshot here when I first open these up. Let me actually quickly come back here. One thing I did want to mention as well is we do have a customer number search here. So if you are initiating an application from scratch, you do have the option to search for any customers as well. Down below here, we do have identification information, contact details, employment information. Now, as part of the online application, what we typically do is capture the consent from the borrower to do a credit check or any other ID verification or authentication checks there. So we're automatically able to perform those calls and then pull that data back into the Newgen system that you can have for your analysis of the different applications. So we can see things like the beacon score, their BNI. We can also view any documents. So if there are whatever system you are using is providing a hard copy of a report, we can pull that into the system as well. Now moving forward to the loan information. This is, of course, is where we're going to be able to see all the details about the loan request. So we are looking at an auto purchase here, which is a term loan. We can see what is the collateral value that we've captured, down payment, loan amount, loan terms, interest rate. All of that information is captured here. If we have any fees as part of the application, we can add any here. Now, in the demo, we're allowing the user to go ahead and add these fees manually, but we're also able to capture these fees automatically. So we can see, by depending on the loan type, what fees would be associated with that, and then we can select if I want to have this finance, debited, deducted from disbursement, whichever I'd like to choose here. Let's move forward here to the assets and collateral. Now there's two sections within this tab. We do have one section for assets, so we can see any assets that the borrower may already have. So for example, in this case, we can see that the borrower has an existing deposit account with this value. Now I've already gone ahead and added some details about the collateral here, so we can open this up. And we've kept the collateral page pretty comprehensive here. Depending on what type of collateral, whether it's property, real estate, an automobile, whatever the case is, we can see all the details in one section. Of course, we're able to separate that out if you prefer, so it's not one long continuous page. If you would prefer to have a section, that's certainly something we're able to do as well. Now moving forward to the financial information, we can see 3 different sections here. So we can see the personal financial information. So what is the borrower's income? What is the amounts, whether it's annually, monthly? We can see any of the liabilities here that they might already have existing. So if they have any existing loans, mortgages, and then as well as what is the current loan liability. Now, taking all of these different factors in, we can also go ahead and see, what is going to be the TDS, the GDS here. We can calculate the financial ratios. And then once we move forward, we can see what our analysis worksheet. And within our analysis worksheet, you can see all the different parameters that we are checking against here. What is the value that they're returning? And is this value meeting the approval criteria? Yes or no? Authorized users do have the option to override anything that they might want, as well as leave any comments. And then finally, our last section here would be the current exposure for our borrower. So it gives me a nice snapshot of the existing loans, current exposure, current deposit accounts here. Now moving forward to our searches tab, this is where we can have one consolidated place for any of those third-party searches we might be running. So here in this case, we've already performed a VIN search. Again, we can get back any evaluation details, registration information, depending on what types of systems that you are integrating with. Now, in our documentation tab, if we have any type of loans that have some type of attorney or solicitor involvement, we can capture information there, send that over. We also do have a section for capturing the disbursement instructions, so we can capture those here. And you can have multiple lines of disbursement if required. Let me just go ahead and add some instructions here so we can go ahead and see what that looks like. Go ahead and save and close this. We can also indicate if this will be being debited from their internal account and external account. If external, we can also capture any documentation that would be required as well. We do have a section here for any supporting documents, so we can create a supporting document checklist So depending on, again, the type of loan or any other factors, we can create a checklist here to ensure that we do have a capture of all the information and documents that we would need. It makes really nicely here. So we've seen the document pane earlier, but we also can click to view any documents that are there, just to go ahead and open up anything that's been captured so far. We do have a communication section here. So during the process, there are automated communications that do go out to the borrower. So at different points, such as application submission, application decision, follow-ups, those can happen automatically. We do have this section here that just allows for any ad hoc communications. So it works just very much like an email, where I can come in here, draft my message, send it to the borrower. And what happens is that the system then is able to track it right in the Newgen system. So you can see, what has been sent out to the borrower, the date and time it was sent out. So it works better than some of the users working out of their individual mailbox. Now finally here, we'll come to the decision tab after we've addressed all of the earlier tabs. And you can see once I open up the decision tab, we do have this auto adjudication status. So what the system has done is it does check all of the different parameters that we've configured here for decision making. And it's come back and saying that the decision was that it did need to be referred for for a manual underwriting. Now, the reason that happened is because in order for this to be an automatically approved application, we would have to come back with a true value across the board. So however you would like to have any of these different parameters, the values for them, we can have that done here automatically by the system. Now, since this was a manual review case, I do have to go here and then manually enter a decision. So after I've looked at this at the underwriting stage, I can go ahead and send this for a manager approval. Now, before we move this application forward, I thought this would be a good time to pause and just give you a quick overview of the flow that we'll be continuing with. Now, we did see that borrower application initiation at the online application portal. Now, we've just walked through the underwriting step, and I'm going to go ahead and send this for a manager approval, after which we will go through a document generation and then finally booking to end the process here. So let's go ahead and continue forward. I'm going to go ahead and submit this for manager approval. Just gives me confirmation. Do I want to, yes, do I want to go ahead and proceed? Now, if I have multiple items that I need to review, I can also click yes, and then also bring up the next one automatically. I'm just going to go ahead and say just a simple yes at this point. Now, for demonstration purposes, I've logged in as a user that has access to all of the queues in the system, so I don't have to keep logging in and out. So I do have access to that manager approval queue. So let's just go ahead and continue forward with the flow here. I'm going to pick up our application again. Now that we are at the approval stage, you can see first we do have all the tabs are exactly the same that we saw before, but now you can see that down below we do have all the fields have been moved to a read-only mode. And the reason we do that is because we're taking the approach that we do want the approvers to be able to see all of the information in the system, but we don't want the approvers to make any changes or do any of the updates. If anything needs to be updated, they do have the option to send it to other stakeholders in the process, back to underwriting, back to processing, whatever your stages may be. But we just don't want them to be the ones to actually do the work. Now, just in the interest of time, we can forego looking at all the tabs. They are the same as the ones that we just went through. I'm just going to jump straight to the decision tab here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, everything is able to be configured as to your liking. We have seen some clients that actually prefer that the approver step has the adjudication summary right up front, so they can see that, they can see what was true, what did not meet the criteria, and then you can just address it from there. So that is one option that's there, so just wanted to highlight that point here. Let's just assume that everything is fine. I'm going to send it to doc generation, which is giving it my approval. as I mentioned, if I need to send this back, I can send this to a different department. I could also decline if I did not feel like this should be approved as well. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. And then since I've sent it over to doc generation, I can go ahead and access this queue. Let me just resort these and pull our application back up here. Now, we've already gone through these tabs, so let me just highlight the differences here at doc generation. Within our documents tab, we now do have a doc generation section here. And so this is where I'm able to generate any documents either directly from the Newgen system, or we can leverage integration to go ahead and integrate with doc prep providers. And we can push all the data over to the doc prep provider, allow them to generate those documents, and we can pull them back into Newgen. Again, this document is going to be generated directly in Newgen. I can select which document I would like to generate here. I can say that I do have successful document generation, and I can see it in my previewer over here. Of course, I could expand this to see it in a better format. I can zoom in as needed as well. Let me just collapse this back. And again, show I can expand this section and just move forward here. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the decision tab again. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's send this over to centralized operations. I don't need to send it back to any of the previous steps. So now we'll go ahead and jump into the centralized operations queue, which will be the final step here in our journey. Now within a centralized operations queue, everything looks pretty much the same, but now let's move to the decision tab where we now do have the appearance of our loan booking section. So authorized users would be able to access the different queues. So again, as I mentioned, I logged in as more of a super user where I can access the whole system. But here in our centralized operations, once we've gone through, again, confirm that everything is completed in the other tabs, I can come to my decision tab where I do have the loan booking section now. And here's where we can leverage integration with the core. So we do have real-time integration with the various cores in the marketplace. And we can push all the information over to the core to allow that data transfer without having to rekey data. And you can see we've pushed the data over. We can open the loan, we can create the collateral, and we do have a success message here as well. This would be the last step within our process here. I do have the option once it's opened to send it for any post-closing activities that might be there. But we've completed the process. We're going to go ahead and end our journey. So just as a quick recap, you can again see the flow that we were able to walk through, where we could take that borrower submitted application online and then run it through the entire end-to-end process of our workflow. Again, keep in mind, the workflow is able to be configured to your specific requirements, as well as the requirements for data capture, document generation, and as well as we do have integration with e-sign vendors to also capture those signatures electronically. Thank you for watching.